The silent exodus. The universe had grown cold to suffering, its ancient powers wrapped in bureaucracy and indifference. On the edge of the spiral arm, planet Kalara spun quietly around its dying sun, home to the Velori, a species the galaxy had decided wasn't worth saving. The Velori weren't warriors or traders. They were artists, philosophers, and dreamers who painted with light and sang in colors that most species couldn't even see. Their crystalline cities once hummed with creativity, their spires reaching toward stars that had long since stopped listening. But now those cities stood empty, their inhabitants gathered in the last functioning shelter beneath the surface, waiting for an end that seemed inevitable. The plague had come 3 cycles ago, spreading through their population like wildfire through dry forests. It attacked their unique physiology, turning their translucent skin dark and brittle, their melodious voices into painful rasps. The Galactic Confederation had received their distress calls, analyzed the data, and made their decision. The cost of intervention exceeded the projected value of the Velori contribution to galactic society. In the great halls of the Confederation, Ambassador Zektar of the Dominion spoke with the cold efficiency his species was known for. The Velori number less than 2 million. Their planet produces no strategic resources. Their technology is quaint. The expense of developing a cure would be better allocated elsewhere. Heads nodded around the circular chamber. The motion passed unanimously. The Velori would face extinction alone. But the universe has a way of surprising even its oldest inhabitants. 300 light-years away, the human exploration vessel Aurora picked up a faint signal. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her weathered hands gripping the railing as she listened to the translated message playing for the 5th time. The voice was weak, broken, but the emotion transcended species barriers. This is Elder Silas of the Velori. Our children are dying. Our songs are fading. We know the galaxy has abandoned us, but we send this message into the void, hoping someone might remember that we existed, that we mattered. Please, if anyone hears this, remember us. Lieutenant Martinez looked up from his console. Captain, the signal's coming from Kalara system. It's not on any of our approved exploration routes. The Confederation marked it as a quarantine zone 6 months ago. Sarah's jaw tightened. She'd served in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years before taking command of the Aurora. She'd seen bureaucracy let people die before. How long to reach them? 4 days at maximum burn, Captain. But regulations clearly state. I know what regulations state, Sarah interrupted, her voice carrying the weight of decision. Set course for Kalara. Maximum speed. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Entering a quarantine zone without authorization could end all their careers. But as Sarah looked around at her crew, she saw the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. Ma'am, spoke Dr. James Wilson, the ship's chief medical officer, I'll need to prepare the med bay. We don't know what we're dealing with. Sarah nodded. Do it. And James, pack everything. We're not leaving anyone behind. 4 days later, the Aurora dropped out of hyperspace above Kalara. The planet below was beautiful in its desolation, continents of purple sand and silver oceans reflecting the light of its bloated red sun. But the cities were dark, and orbital scans showed minimal life signs concentrated in underground shelters. The away team descended in a heavily shielded shuttle. Sarah led the group, accompanied by Dr. Wilson, Lieutenant Martins, and a team of medical specialists. They wore full environmental suits, not knowing what they might encounter. The Velori shelter was carved into living rock, its entrance marked by intricate patterns that seemed to shift in the light. As the humans approached, a figure emerged from the shadows. Elder Silas was tall and thin, his once luminous skin now mottled with dark patches. His large eyes, still holding traces of their original silver color, widened in disbelief. You came, he whispered, his voice like wind through broken glass. But you are not known to us. What species answers the calls of the dawning? Sarah removed her helmet, letting the filtered air touch her face. "We're humans. We're new to the galaxy, but we heard your message. We're here to help." Silas stared at her, then at the medical team unloading equipment from the shuttle. "The Confederation declared us unworthy of salvation. Why would you risk yourselves for strangers?" Sarah knelt to meet his eyes. "Because where we come from, we have a saying, no one fights alone. Now let my medical team examine your people. We're going to find a way to beat this." Inside the shelter, the humans found scenes that would haunt them forever. Thousands of the Valori lay on simple beds, their bodies ravaged by the plague. Children clung to parents, their natural luminescence faded to barely a flicker. But what struck the humans most was the art covering every wall. Paintings, sculptures, holographic poems, all created by the dying as their final gift to the universe. Dr. Wilson immediately set up a field laboratory. The plague was unlike anything in human medical databases, but that didn't stop him. He worked 18-hour days, analyzing tissue samples, running simulations, consulting with specialists aboard the Aurora. His team documented everything, their determination growing with each small breakthrough. After 7 days, Wilson made a discovery that changed everything. "Captain, you need to see this." He displayed a molecular analysis on the shelter's main screen. "This isn't a natural plague. It's engineered. Someone designed this to specifically target Valori physiology." The implications hit everyone like a physical blow. This wasn't a random tragedy. It was genocide. Sarah's voice was steel. "Who would do this?" Elder Silas stepped forward, his frail form trembling. 3 cycles ago, we refused to sell our land to the Hegemony Mining Consortium. They wanted to strip mine our sacred sites. We thought the Confederation would protect us, but they looked the other way." Sarah finished. The picture was becoming clear. The Valori had been marked for extinction, not by nature, but by greed. That night, Sarah made a decision that would echo through the galaxy. She opened a channel to Earth Command, bypassing all Confederation protocols. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Aurora. We have encountered a sentient species facing engineered extinction. I am officially requesting humanitarian intervention under Earth's Universal Life Protection Act. Send everything. Medical ships, supplies, personnel. We're not letting them die." The response came 12 hours later. Admiral Jackson himself appeared on the screen. "Captain Chen, you've put us in a difficult position. The Confederation is already protesting your presence in the quarantine zone. But," he paused, a grim smile crossing his face, "we've reviewed your data. The Fifth Fleet is already en route with 3 hospital ships and a full humanitarian task force. Hold your position. Help is coming." As news spread through the shelter, something remarkable happened. The Valori, who had resigned themselves to death, began to hope again. They shared their culture with the humans, teaching them their art, their music, their philosophy. In return, the humans shared stories of Earth, of their struggles and triumphs, of their belief that every life had value. Dr. Wilson's breakthrough came on day 15. Working with Valori healers, he discovered that their unique ability to see in spectrums beyond human perception extended to the microscopic level. By combining human medical technology with Valori sensory abilities, they identified the plague's weakness, a protein sequence that could be disrupted with a specifically tuned energy frequency. The cure wasn't just possible. It was elegant, a fusion of human determination and Valori insight. As the first patients began to recover, Elder Silas wept, something the Valori hadn't been able to do since the plague began. "You have given us more than life," he told Sarah. "You have given us proof that compassion still exists in the universe." But their victory was short-lived. Long-range sensors detected incoming vessels, not human ships, but Hegemony Consortium warships. The perpetrators of the genocide were coming to finish what the plague had started. Sarah stood on the Aurora's bridge, watching the tactical display. They were outgunned and outnumbered. But as she looked at her crew, at Dr. Wilson covered in days of unwashed clothes, but smiling as he administered the cure, at the Valori children beginning to glow again with their natural light. She knew there was no choice to make. All hands, battle stations, she commanded. Send a message to the incoming fleet. Any attempt to harm the Valori will be considered an act of war against Earth. We're done watching people die. The bridge hummed with activity as her crew prepared for a fight they couldn't win. But sometimes, Sarah thought, standing up for what's right matters more than winning. As the hegemony ships dropped out of hyperspace, Sarah gripped the command chair and prepared to make humanity's statement to the galaxy. Some things are worth fighting for, even when the odds are impossible. The stars held their breath, waiting to see if the newest species in the galaxy would back up their words with action. The Valori huddled in their shelters, hoping their saviors wouldn't abandon them now. And somewhere in the void, other oppressed species watched and wondered if maybe, just maybe, things were about to change. The price of compassion. The hegemony fleet emerged from hyperspace like predators circling wounded prey. 12 sleek warships arranged in attack formation around the Aurora. Their hulls gleamed with advanced armor that had never known defeat, their weapons systems powered up and locked onto the lone human vessel. Commander Vraktor of the hegemony spoke through the communication channel, his voice carrying the arrogance of 1,000 conquered worlds. Human vessel, you are in violation of Confederation Quarantine Order 7 Alpha. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Sarah Chen stood firm on her bridge, her crew silent but ready. Commander Vraktor, I'm transmitting medical data to your ships. The plague affecting the Valori is artificial, a bioweapon. We have developed a cure and are providing humanitarian aid. Any action against us or the Valori will be considered an act of genocide. Laughter echoed through the speakers, cold, mechanical. The Confederation has already ruled. The Valori are a non-viable species. Your presence changes nothing. You have 60 seconds to begin withdrawal. But Vraktor had made a critical error. He assumed humanity stood alone. As the seconds ticked down, space behind the Aurora began to ripple. Hyperspace windows tore open across the void, and ship after ship emerged, not just the promised Fifth Fleet, but vessels from across human space. Cargo haulers retrofitted with shield generators, mining vessels bristling with improvised weapons, private yachts loaded with medical supplies. Earth hadn't just sent a fleet, they'd sent a message. Admiral Jackson's flagship, the Resilience, took position beside the Aurora. His voice boomed across all channels. Commander Vraktor, I am Admiral Jackson of the United Earth Forces. We have 47 ships here, with more arriving every hour. We've also broadcast your communication to every human colony, space station, and allied world. The galaxy is watching. Choose your next actions carefully. The hegemony commander's voice faltered for the first time. This is unprecedented. The Confederation will not tolerate such defiance. Then let them come, Jackson replied. We've read your Confederation laws. There's no prohibition against providing humanitarian aid. If you attack ships engaged in rescue operations, you'll be the ones breaking galactic law. On the planet below, Dr. Wilson worked frantically in the medical center. The cure was spreading, but they needed time. Each Valori required individual treatment, their unique physiology demanding precise calibration. But something amazing was happening. As the Valori recovered, they didn't simply return to health. They evolved. Captain, you need to see this, Wilson called over the comm. The plague wasn't just designed to kill them. It was meant to suppress their evolution. Now that we're removing it, they're changing. In the shelter, Elder Silas stood surrounded by a growing aura of light. His eyes, once dimmed by disease, now shone with an intensity that seemed to pierce reality itself. Other Valori experienced similar transformations, their ability to perceive and manipulate light expanding beyond anything previously recorded. A young Valori child reached out to touch a human nurse, and for a moment, their minds connected. The nurse gasped as she experienced the universe, through Velori senses, colors beyond human comprehension, patterns in space and time that revealed the fundamental structure of reality itself. "We see now," Silas whispered, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated in human bones. "We see why you came. We see what you truly are." Above, the standoff continued. The hegemony ships held position, but their confidence was cracking. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy, independent traders refusing to deal with hegemony worlds, mining guilds canceling contracts, even other Confederation members questioning the quarantine order. Then came the transmission that changed everything. It wasn't from any ship or planet, but from space itself. The Velori, their evolved abilities now growing exponentially, had connected with something ancient, a network of consciousness that spanned the galaxy, touching every world where life had ever flourished. Through Elder Silas, this ancient awareness spoke. "We have watched. We have waited. The Velori were our children, placed here to grow, to learn, to teach. You sought to destroy them for profit. But these newcomers, these humans, have shown what we hope to see. They value life over law, compassion over conformity." The message reached every ship, every world, every consciousness capable of receiving it. On the hegemony vessels, crew members began to question their orders. Some had fought in wars of conquest. But this felt different. Commander Vraktor tried to maintain control. "All ships, prepare tow." He never finished the command. His own bridge crew turned to face him, their weapons powered down, their expressions resolute. His second-in-command spoke quietly. "Sir, we won't be party to genocide. Not anymore." Across the hegemony fleet, similar scenes played out. The revelation of the plague's true nature, combined with humanity's unwavering stance and the Velori's transformation, had sparked something that couldn't be stopped. A revolution of conscience. On Earth, the response was unlike anything in human history. Volunteers by the millions signed up for relief missions. Scientists shared research freely. Artists collaborated with Velori creators, producing works that bridged species and cultures. Children sent hand-drawn pictures to Velori youngsters, simple gestures of friendship that transcended language. The Confederation Council convened an emergency session. Ambassador Zektar, who had so coldly condemned the Velori, now faced a chamber filled with dissent. Species after species rose to speak, not in support of the old order, but questioning how they had become so callous, so calculating in their approach to life and death. "We have lost our way," declared Ambassador Mirin of the Altarians, a species known for their wisdom. "We created laws to preserve order, but when those laws permit extinction for profit, they have failed their purpose. The humans have reminded us of something we forgot, that every sapient life has inherent worth." The vote to lift the quarantine was unanimous. But more than that, the Council established new protocols, the Compassion Amendments, ensuring that no species would again face extinction, while others stood by in silence. Back on Kalara, the transformation was complete. The Velori had not just survived, they had transcended. Their evolved abilities allowed them to heal their world, restore their ecosystems, and reach out to other dying planets across the galaxy. They became ambassadors of renewal, teaching other species how to see beyond the visible spectrum, to understand the interconnectedness of all life. Sarah Chen stood with Elder Silas on a restored Velori city spire, watching ships from a dozen species arrive with aid and support. The sky, once dim with approaching death, now sparkled with new possibilities. "Your people saved us," Silas said, his form now radiant with controlled energy. "But more than that, you saved the galaxy from itself. You reminded us that evolution isn't just about biology. It's about choosing compassion over indifference, courage over comfort." Sarah smiled, thinking of all the regulations they'd broken, all the risks they'd taken. "We just did what anyone should do." Sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from exploring new worlds, but from deciding what kind of species we want to be. The Hegemony Consortium was dissolved, its assets distributed to worlds it had exploited. Its leaders faced trial for attempted genocide. But in a gesture that surprised the galaxy, the Valori spoke in their defense, asking not for punishment, but for understanding and redemption. As news of these events spread, something shifted in the galaxy's consciousness. Species began to question old prejudices, to reach across ancient divides. Trade agreements were rewritten to include ethical provisions. Scientific knowledge was shared more freely. The Confederation itself underwent massive reforms, with humanity and the Valori invited to help reshape its charter. The change wasn't immediate or universal. There were still those who clung to the old ways, who saw compassion as weakness. But they found themselves increasingly isolated as world after world chose a different path. Dr. Wilson published his research on the plague, but more importantly, he documented the collaboration between human and Valori medicine. This became the foundation for the Interspecies Medical Alliance, where healers from all worlds shared knowledge and techniques. Diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia were cured through cooperation. A year later, at the First Galactic Assembly under the new Compassion Amendments, Elder Silas addressed the gathered representatives. His words, transmitted in light and sound and thought, reached every corner of known space. We stand here not as Valori, not as humans, not as separate species scrambling for resources and power. We stand as a galactic community, united by the understanding that our strength lies not in our differences, but in our shared capacity for empathy. The humans didn't just save the Valori. They saved us all from forgetting who we could be. The assembly erupted in celebration, a harmony of sounds, lights, and emanations from 100 different species, and at the center of it all stood Sarah Chen and her crew, no longer outsiders in the galactic community, but the catalyst for its transformation. In the years that followed, the term "pulling a human" entered galactic vocabulary, meaning to act with compassion despite personal risk. The Valori became known as the Lightbringers, using their evolved abilities to help other species see new possibilities. Together, they ushered in an age of unprecedented cooperation and discovery. But perhaps the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed extinction events. Never again would a species face death alone. Never again would bureaucracy triumph over compassion. The humans had taught the galaxy a simple truth. Every life matters, and sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can reshape the universe. As Sarah Chen retired years later, she received a gift from the Valori, a crystal that held within it the light of every star in the galaxy, each one representing a life saved by the precedent humanity had set. She placed it in the Museum of Galactic Unity on Earth, where children of all species could see it and learn the story of how one ship's crew chose compassion over protocol and changed everything. The inscription beneath it read simply, "When the galaxy watched them die, humanity chose to care." In that choice, we all found salvation. And in the vast expanse of space, where consciousness touched consciousness across the void, a truth echoed that would outlive stars and civilizations. Compassion is not weakness. It is the greatest strength any species can possess. The galaxy had learned to watch differently now, not for weakness to exploit, but for suffering to heal. And in that watching, in that choosing to care, they found their own evolution, their own path to the stars. The story of the